starting. Hello, everyone. It's so nice to have you for our third Golchakkar event. My name is Kiran Bhatt. I am an Indian American author, traveler, polyglot, person of many, many landscapes and languages and literary spaces. And I'm really happy to have you all here for our third rendition of Golchakkar, which is a space hosted by me and Karan Madhok, who is the founder of the literary journal, The Chakkar. So we're really happy to have you all, and we're also excited to see the people who slowly trickle in. Some of you are returning faces, others are probably people who will slowly get to know a little bit more about what we're doing. So Karan, do you want to say a little bit about your magazine first before we start?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the introduction, Kiran. My name is Karan Madhok. I'm the editor and founder of thechakkar.com. And we have worked with Kiran to do this Golchakkar reading series. Really happy for all of you to join us today. Abha, Gaurav, Jose, thank you. And everyone else who's tuned in to listen to us talk, and in the spirit of flash fiction, that is all I'm going to say. We're going to get started straight away because we can move on with the flash.
Jump in.
Wonderful. So yes, and I'll say a few words as well before we start, and I'll also let in a new person who's coming in. So the Golchakkar is basically a literary series in which, being a person, an Indian American who's very interested in the kind of unique spaces now that we're seeing in 21st century literature, I kind of want to create a space for Indian writers who don't want to do the typical Indian story, who wanted to maybe write about things that are in the context of landscape of globalization, or in the discussion of kind of how the, Sanjana is saying she can't hear anything. I think I let you in, Sanjana, so you should be fine now, but please, you can write me if you're having any problem. So basically, I wanted to have a space where I could discuss maybe Indian authors who were in conversation, not necessarily with just India, the subcontinent, but globalization. And I think flash fiction is an interesting space to talk about because it is a space that is so contemporary, modern, 21st century, and has a little bit of a, it originates from certain spaces, and I want to talk about that more. Before we start, I just want to thank Gaurav Munga, Jose Varghese, and Abha Iyengar for coming to join us. They're three excellent Flash authors who are going to be doing wonderful work for us, and I'm really excited to hear not only what they have to say about flash fiction, but the wisdom they have to give us about the process of writing. So before we start, I just want some basic things defined for people because, flash fiction is a fairly new form, so not everyone might be aware of it. So maybe any of you can chime in. So I'm going to ask 3 questions just to get us oriented around flash fiction, and any of you can chime in, but this part is not the panel, it's just to get us some definition. So what is flash fiction? Would anyone like to tell me what flash fiction is?
Well, I can just say it in one sentence.
Yeah, tell
it's
them.
like a very it's a short story.
A short story. So basically, it's like a short story, but even smaller, maybe a page or 2, right? Yes. And who are some people who are famous flash fiction writers? Who are the people that we normally associate with flash fiction? Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess in the UK, Tanya Hirschman and Vanessa Gebbie are supposed to be good. They have won a lot of prizes. They are also poets. And Meg Pokras is doing a lot of work these days. Nancy Stolham. So these are the names that pop up when you go to a Facebook group for flash fiction. These are the people who are doing good job. They're conducting workshops, and of course from India, our own Abha Iyengar is there. She has also done a course recently, I guess.
Yeah, I held a workshop. Yes.
Yes. So I'm really grateful for that, Jose. You're talking about some contemporary people. And I also am really grateful for the chat, which is also telling us a little bit more about, others.
Yeah, Kathy Fish is there.
And Hemingway. Hemingway is probably one of the fathers of the poem, which is what I was trying to get towards. The more classical examples, like Raymond Carver as well. But that's all right.
Yeah.
Next one.
Yeah, Lydia Davis is there. She writes.
Yes, Lydia Davis. Yeah, wonderful. Right.
Even John Cheever is there.
Yeah. Well, John Cheever's work is more short story, but yeah, some examples.
There are some, yeah.
Yes.
Of course, there'll be more talk about sort of interrogating what flash fiction is, and I'm glad that Kiran, that you brought me here, because I don't even know if I'm writing flash fiction some of the time. And and I don't use the word very much. I mean, I think Abha and Jose clearly use it very much. I mean, from what I'm gathering, I mean, she's written a flash fiction novella. But one particular individual who, I think it's very interesting how, so much of the publishing demands have sort of, I immediately thought, when I think of flash fiction, I think of Yasunari Kawabata's Palm of the Hand stories.
Oh, interesting.
And, because I mean, he was lesser known for those really short pieces. I mean, of course, for his larger, like, he even took Snow Country, his novel, and sort of gleaned it and made it like 30 pages. Sort of, it's like you write a full novel and then you sort of condense it. But yeah, anyway, I just thought of, I don't know why I thought of Kawabata.
No, it's also good to bring like less common examples. I think another one that comes to my mind, even though I'm not really on the panel, but anyways, Ivan Turgenev, who wrote this tale, The Warrior's Sketches or something. It's one of this, like, it's a really good example. That's not the exact name of it, but it's like a bunch of short, like, pieces, 80 short pieces that come together to tell the story of like different, not warriors, but like the different people of the time in the Russian steppes who were doing this certain thing. So that also is kind of like not a typical narrative we associate with Flash. So it's interesting as well. But one thing that I find very interesting about Flash is that it has a very strong American association. When I think of a lot of people who are working in the US, I think of like Flash having a little bit more of like that type of space, which is why I wanted to probe, which is why I was asking, like, writers who are famous for Flash. I mean, so like, were you all like reading those writers when you were originally coming to Flash fiction, or was it something that came incidentally? Or came from another source, maybe? Did it come from another source?
I think, Kiran, you'll have to address the people you want answering, because, I'll be jumping in all the time otherwise.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. Sure. So you jump in now, and then afterwards. The goal is the first few ones are free flowing, and then I'll do like, X, Y, Z. But yes, I'm just.
Well, if you want me to jump in, like, I can just tell you that Flash fiction and US or whatever, I mean, yeah, there were American e-zines usually. I mean, mainly when you started writing Flash. I started writing with the purpose in 2001, and it was through the internet, because of the internet and no other reason. That was my transformational source. Okay, and in 2003, I published my first piece of Flash, and it was the first story I sent out and got published. Okay. Now, when you say the US and e-zines, I'm saying that was the space where you could publish. The US, the Western world is very transparent. The editors are very transparent, very quick to respond, very affirmative. Right. And so, yeah, that was, and it was US really. I mean, there were a lot of, I mean, my first story got published, Insolent Radar. I don't know whether it's UK or US. I think it's US. And it was called Visceral, and like, there was no turning back for me. So I just started writing Flash because I was searching for what kind of stories which worked. And Flash was very, very popular at that time. It was just taking off, but very popular. Nothing of that kind was happening even in 2009 in India when I started holding my workshops. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Yes. Jose, would you like to maybe talk a little bit about where you came from when you were starting to consider working in Flash fiction?
Yeah, when compared to Abha's publication records, I think I came very late. Like my first Flash fiction was published in 2012. And I submitted only because it was a contest conducted by Word Weavers, and I got a second prize. And then I started looking for more opportunities like that. And the next year I was a runner-up in SWORD, Flash fiction competition from the UK. That's how I started reading other writers, like the names I mentioned earlier. Like Tanya Hirschman was also there in the shortlist. So I started following them and their work, and they had Flash fiction collections. So that's how I entered the scene. And now I focus more on long form fiction, but I keep writing Flash fiction as well. But my reading Flash fiction actually is more than what I write, because I happen to judge a competition. So I'm always reading something. Like every month I have to read around 40, 50 flash stories. So, but for some reason I am trying to focus more on a story collection, which consists of stories that are around 5,000 words. But most of those stories, I can't say most of them, some of those stories have started as flash fiction. I started developing some of the flash fiction stories to longer stories. So that's happening to me.
And now, Gaurav, I think it's interesting because you are in a space where you sometimes write longer form, short stories, sometimes flash. Like, can you tell us maybe when it is you come to flash, when it is you come to the short story, when it is you come to the novella, etc.?
Well, I think, I mean, something I've really actually even struggled with, because one is that the publishing world really wants you to write something longer, and so, I mean, at least commercially. So it's like, shit, why can't I write something longer, And so I think it's also, it's various things. I think one of the major things is I'm writing in English, often about situations that take place in India, okay? For various reasons, I have to omit dialogue. I have trouble with sort of hybrid text, in the sense that if the narration is in English and suddenly, someone is speaking in Hindi or Punjabi, I wouldn't be able to write in Hindi, Urdu or Punjabi as well as I can in English. So this hybrid text never worked for me as an experiment, which is why I don't know if it's necessarily, I think what really sort of interests me in general is the fragment, the book Ruins and the book and Costumes of the Living are, I wouldn't call them flash fiction, but more kind of this sort of, these fragments essentially. And then what happens over time, writing these fragments, you build some sort of constellation of fragments. And I think even this one work, which is, I guess, kind of novella type, like, what Abha was just talking about, was composed as a series of fragments, written kind of also in isolation. They write a fragment and another fragment, and they're not necessarily linked, but there's some sort of link. So a novella which need not necessarily be so linear, but yet have fragments which I've somewhat later brought together, and it formed a little larger work. So I think the fragment is something which I'm particularly interested in as a form, as a sort of, I guess, philosophical unit also, how it speaks differently than something which is linear, how this idea of repetition, of coming back to something which looks like another fragment. I mean, Ruins is largely like that. There's a fragment that almost appears like another fragment, but that's kind of the point. Maybe a sort of, I don't know, an inadvertent redundancy of sort, but I think the fragment is what really interested me. And for me, I don't know, one very important writer, whom I love very much, is actually this Russian strange kind of avant-garde writer called Daniil Kharms, who wrote this really funny, caustic, dark kind of, just like 3-liners, 4-liners, and I don't know even necessarily. And he was even sort of saying, he was saying he was actually promoting non-narrative art. Like, he was literally writing things that don't have any stories. There's no story. It's an event. It's just something that happens. So anyway, so I think I come a lot from that space. I mean, at least I think so.
No, I think actually, Gaurav, you said some really interesting things, and the things I want to probe a little bit deep into, particularly the idea of fragment as a story form. I mean, and I'll ask one of the other two flash fiction writers to help me. Jose, when you are trying to frame a flash fiction piece, do you feel that maybe it is a fragment of something greater? Do you feel like you're just trying to create a moment that is condensed in a way that will be different than a story? Do you feel like there's something also that is similar to the way you approach it, or is there a difference?
Yeah, of course. It's, you can call a flash as a frozen moment. Actually, I like to quote this a lot. There's a quote by Goethe: music is liquid architecture, and architecture is frozen music. And I came to this again while I was reading a novel by Colum McCann called Aragon, which was longlisted in Booker Prize this year. And the way he writes the novel reminds you a lot of, how a flash, it has a big story, like a plot and everything is there. It's about two fathers from Palestine and Israel who lose their daughters in different circumstances. That's a connecting story, but the whole story is told through fragments. So he focuses on that. He says it because this is this experience of these two fathers. It's too profound and it's too tragic to be contained in a story, in a big story. So he tries to look at it from different points. Like, so they all end up being fragments, and they're taken from different sources as well. So that works if you are thinking of a novel in Flash, novella or novel in Flash. That can be a good idea, even if you have a novel idea and you turn out to be a writer who loves to focus on the moment, the frozen moments. And in my case, as I told you earlier, most of my short stories, they come from these frozen moments. I can expand them. I have to add the story elements, and I have to, expand the characters. I can work further on the plots. But in the basic form, if you don't have that frozen moment in a story, it will fail. So that's how I feel. So I'm waiting for more views on this. So that's my response to the frozen moment idea.
Yeah, it's interesting. You've taken fragments and made into frozen moments, which I think is also a lot of kind of these types of novels that I have my own thoughts on the frozen moment thing, because I think it's interesting from a novelistic perspective as well. But I want Abha to maybe, so we've got fragmentation, we've got frozen moments. What is your interesting take on this?
Well, actually, when I started, I wrote my novella. It was a kind of they were, pieces of Flash, which I was writing online for a particular magazine. And somehow they seemed to have, they were like one character and her family was involved in it. And I may have written about a couple, like about 7 or 8 such stories every month or something. So, and the publisher sort of then said that I should try to make it into a novella. So then using those, if you call them fragments or frozen moments or flash fiction pieces, using those, then I had to develop a whole novella, which, so you had that one character, and her story, that plot line, the narrative arc following, and they were all flash pieces in themselves, complete in themselves. Yeah. So when I write a piece of Flash, it's for me that in itself it's complete. I can't think of it as it's, you could say that it's, in itself it holds all these, you can call it a fragment or a frozen moment or like a piece of Flash. But for me, it holds the backstory, the front, like the reader has to derive whatever he wants or she wants or they want from that story. So yeah. For me, it's a complete tale. It's not, I can't think of it as a fragment. And they could be fragments of a bigger story, definitely. Or frozen moments made into that complete architecture which Jose talks about.
Kiran, I would like to ask.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Please
I was
continue.
just thinking, and this is that period, and it just came to my mind, and how the imagination is that in Boston they had these frozen. I was in one Christmas in Boston, and they had these frozen ice figures which they had sculpted out, and that has just now appeared when I was talking about architecture. You know how things jump in the brain. And it's something to relate to. I think that how that whole form comes into a whole novel or novella or whatever. And you could have, elements of it which make the final story for you.
Yes,
But you
I
have
had
to
a
watch that
question.
show.
oh yeah, what do you have a question,
Yeah.
Hossein? No.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
a question to Kiran actually.
Oh,
It's about your novel. Do you consider that as having some aspects of Flash? Because you know the description of it sounds a lot like it has some scope for Flash as well.
oh, that's so sweet of you to like include me in the panel. I'm just the humble moderator, but thank you. Very sweet of you. I also don't believe in these labels. I mean, I'm doing it because I'm the moderator and I'm trying to go this into certain directions. But in reality, as a writer, I just think you have a story to tell. You're trying to create a form, and you just take all the things that come together. And then these labels like story, flash novel, I think they're just like there to help you market it later when you have to turn to a publisher. But I'm not someone who believes in them personally. But yes, but maybe I shouldn't be saying that since we're specifically trying to right now. We're specifically trying to delineate flash fiction. But anyways, I'm not the one on the panel, however. But yes, there's elements of it though. I think also I agree with you with that. That's why I said like the frozen moments thing is very, because I think I'm trying to create a collage of all these experiences around the world and using like so many different singular narratives or like moments from a certain perspective to coalesce to create a greater shape. But I think of that as also something different from Flash, which has to stand on its own. Although, anyways, I think, however, what you three said is also very interesting. This idea of that, this like coalescence, and then this idea of fragmentation, and then also what Abba said is sometimes you just tell a story and it's just like 500 words long, and that's what came out of you, and that's it. I mean, you're not thinking any more than that. So I wanted to then ask something in relation to maybe, okay, so we like to write Flash, but there's also not much space for Flash in the world. Are there certain like difficulties that you all have when you're trying to, get out a book of Flash fiction and you're trying to approach the publishing world or the market or even readers? Like, what are certain things that you have to deal with that maybe if you wrote in other forms, you'd have to deal with less in? And anyone, maybe Abba looks like she's deep in thought about this, so I'll let her take it.
Oh, I was saying that I'm lost in thought, so you'll wait for me to finalize whatever I want to say.
Gaurav. Well, let's actually choose Gaurav because Gaurav writes in many forms anyway. So it's also interesting because you could have, you also like to write in other spaces, right? So what was the difficulties that you had when you were trying to say publish your book of Flash fiction or some of your other ones?
Yeah, it's a real challenge, because, you do spend a lot of, I guess, a lot of your heart, and to produce something, but it's so damn short, and then you're like, and most publishers, and I understand it's probably a market need. I mean, they have a sort of minimum word count, and I think it's very interesting. Abha brought that up because, I think I published my first short story like as late as 2012, and I was like, there was no way to get it done in India. No, I don't know, maybe there was, but I just it suddenly like a whole avenue opened to publication, which I thought wasn't possible. Also, writing kind of surreal, absurd, even slightly demented. In the sense that some of the work I've written is really kind of odd, and even odd to me, if you were to submit it to some of the few English publishers in this country, this is the weird bit. I don't know who's going to publish Flash in this country, and we're all writing it, but there's no one to publish it. So then you find kind of indie publishers who are a little offbeat abroad, and I've been lucky in the last 2 years to find that. But yeah, sometimes I wonder, whether, and that's why I'm also trying to write something longer. But I think there's something about the aphorism which I'm also very interested in, and I don't know, for some reason I gravitate towards the small or the short at least. So as far as getting published, it's a real pain in the ass, because who's there, man? In this country, no one's going to even now, I was very lucky. Havakal in Calcutta published this. And, initially there was an idea to sort of add illustrations, not because the text necessarily required illustrations, but because we wanted to add more like pages. Okay. Which I was like, okay, listen, the text is, we all agreed pretty much within a day, but the text is quite, it's quite image centric. I think my writing has the image. In fact, that's something which is very interesting. I actually wanted to paint. I didn't want to write. And so flash fiction became like the literary equivalent of a painting for me initially, to show a scene, a frozen moment, as Jose puts, and so that was like an interesting bit, a frozen moment, and that's an entire story, so yeah, but yeah, I was lucky with that. But yeah, I think it's a real challenge to try and publish something so short. Something as simple as getting it in, I'm gonna shut up after this, but getting it into a bookstore. They're like, listen, they're like, for example, here's my father, the watchmaker. It's too thin to have the title on the spine. So how will you shelve this? I mean, these are logistics of publishing which come in the way of your writing somehow,
That's a fascinating thought. I mean, I think it's something, as you were speaking out of, I was thinking what would be a really interesting thing is maybe you all could start like a publishing house to do flash fiction and to really do it well, and to really, maybe even I think that playing more with digital, because I think there's certain forms that even might work better digitally because it's shorter. So really like going fully very purposefully digitally, and very purposely like getting some nice illustrations and doing like what Kindles, they do those Kindle singles, for example, stuff like that. So maybe you all three should later get in touch with some of the other people in the room, and also Ishmeet runs a publishing house. She just gave a little shout out to it. So
yeah, I saw that.
I saw that. Yeah.
Even Ishmeet, I know you're not part of this panel, but even that could be something you all could work on. I'm not trying to rope you into this, but I think that could be an interesting like sub imprint. And it's a good space. One thing that indie publishers are good for is publishing things that are out of the box and really like taking that time to make something unique in a way that a more corporate publisher is not willing to.
Yes, I think also, Kiran, if I may butt in and
Please.
as usual, wanting to speak my mind. So the thing is that, like, as Gaurav was saying, like writing the surreal or something different, or even I wonder afterwards, like, I mean, did I write this kind of thing? But that gets picked up in the West and outside India. Here, people won't even like to try to comprehend. Also, beyond the first line is like, what were you trying to say here? What you're trying to do here? How is it that we can't cross that barrier here? How is it that we have so much resistance to opening our minds to something which which is speculative, which is surreal, which is imaginative? You want something which is literary all the time. It doesn't work. Even in flash, even in short stories, like, this is a question which I even like when I'm doing workshops, I find that there is I have to be very selective in what I'm choosing as a story which I want the audience to work with, because very often it's just beyond. I mean, I have to try, I guess, but that requires much more effort than the time space allows. So what Gaurav was saying, that that imaginative or surreal or something which is not quite there, where people have to sort of read between the lines and actually try to find, okay, that's your interpretation, but at least, I mean, how does the West accept it, or even say that, yeah, we know what you're talking about? Why is it not here?
This is a very, sorry,
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, sorry. But it's
no, that's it.
such an interesting thing, Abha, because I don't know what it is a comment of. Is it the publishing world? Is it a sort of commercial limitation? Is it a limitation of the imagination? Or is it just because we're culturally sort of open to certain forms? Like this last piece I published, I felt because it is about Delhi, it's about Lahore, it's about partition, it's a partition story. And I thought, this will get published here, But the other stuff, I mean, this is the first book I've published. Not that I've published so many books, but the thing is, like, I know, like, forget it, there's no way these things are going to work here. In fact, sometimes, you get responses like, you submitted, but they're giving you, they're cussing you out. Yeah, they're like, what is the meaning of this? Like, no, seriously, they're like, can you please make this more poetic, please? Like, I've got responses like this, you know, and like, okay, it's not traditional poetry, but I mean, you don't have to tell me that you should make this more poetic. You know, you get responses like this also. Or let's add, I've even had cases where let's add a sex scene. I mean, matlab kuch,
In a
I'm
particular
not joking.
story.
I mean,
is that?
This is a like
it
Hindi film.
happened. And I said, yeah, I love sex, but there's no sex here. Yeah. You know, I mean, it happened with a big publisher. I almost got something published with Random House 15 years ago, and they wanted some extra sex scenes. I'm sorry, the publishing world is like, I don't know.
I'm sorry to interrupt the panel. It's weird. Usually I don't talk this much when I talk when there's like curations, but I have a lot to say in this regard as well, because I also had to be snubbed a lot when I was writing We of the Forsaken World, which also had to deal with a lot of these similar problems. And, you know, I came to certain insights from that as well. I think the Indian marketplace is almost fundamentally commercial in its mindset. It really wants read, and Ishmeet is telling us we should read Who Will Greet You at Home, which she can maybe write a little bit more about in the chat because I'm curious. I think there's something fundamentally commercial about the Indian publishing mentality, which really kind of betrays a lot of actually very talented Indian writers. I mean, they are only looking for certain things that fall into certain scopes or patterns or models that then they can bend. And, you know, to be honest, it's not like that doesn't exist in the, the US is actually just as bad, if not sometimes worse. But the difference is in the US or in Australia, there's then the other side, which is then that indie publishing landscape, which India right now lacks, which is why I'm saying, you know, if you all feel this way, then maybe you need to do some action and really like stop.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking that was the only solution as well. If we feel like there's a problem, you have to go out and fix it, because that's the only way. And
that's the only way.
Yeah, and that's also
True.
how you'll not only help yourself, but you'll help other writers who are coming 5 years later, who will no longer be in this position now, thanks to your work. So, anyways, maybe we'll all talk about that later in another panel. But
and I guess in the UK, the small publishers are not that small now, because their books are in the Booker shortlist, and a small publisher got the T.S. Eliot Prize winner last year, People Tree Press, and last year Gally Becker. It's becoming a big publisher now. So they all started small. Even Faber started small. So
yeah, well, that's with anything. That's with anything, you know, like even flash fiction, like India is now getting some people are showing curiosity, interest, which 10 years ago, like I met a blank wall, and that was 7-8 years after I was writing Flash. So you can imagine 20 years behind our country, then still now it's like okay, people are sort of awakening to the idea of Flash or something, and let's explore this genre, you know. So
I think the question also arises is of language. I wonder whether, because I mean, the only other real language I can manage to read is actually Urdu, but I don't know, Jose, whether, you know, and Abha, whether you're reading in I mean, I'm assuming some, you know, in Tamil or in Malayalam, whether in those spaces, because that's something we never touch, because we are English writers in India that really constitute somewhat of a minority.
yes.
You know, whether, because I know in Malayalam fiction, like I read translated Charu Nivedita, this Tamil writer, whom I found very experimental, like super experimental. And were it not for this publisher in Chennai, Blaft, who translated it, I mean, I would not. So I wonder whether we are actually even answering that question, because we really represent a niche in terms of, I mean, not niche that. But in some ways, yeah, maybe in terms of numbers, I haven't, like other, you know, there's more experimental writing happening I'm assuming more experimental writing and more experimental publishing happening in Bengali, for that matter, or in Malayalam. I don't know about Punjabi, what's happening in Punjabi, but yeah, it's something throughout there, because
and it's a wonderful question. Like, do either of you two have an answer to it? Like, do you all read in other Indian languages, and do you like follow them in that regard, in regards to flash fiction?
Oh, no, well, not me, because I write everything predominantly in English, and I am trying to read now translated works and things like that. But you know how the convent school upbringing is sort of puts everything else out of whack for you, and so whatever. But now, yes, I do try to read stuff which is but it's all translated works. But basically, like, I do write poems in Hindi, and I do write, but like trying to read prose in Hindi. I'm married to an Iyengar, by the way. So
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I
yeah,
didn't
no,
mean
no
to.
problem, no problem. It's understood. I mean,
Okay, sorry.
it follows. It follows.
Okay.
I'm okay with it. I'm cool with it. People start talking Tamil to me, and then like I say, okay, fine, yeah. So yeah, so I don't, and I really wish I had, because if you have that background from your childhood of having another, very strong hold on your mother tongue or whatever your language or a couple of other languages, I think that's so much value you have to offer and to possess and then offer. So yeah, I mean, so it's basically I've read English text, and I suppose even connect more with the Western writing in some ways. But since we write, like Gaurav's book, I got my father is a watchmaker, so since the connection is like with Chandni Chowk and Lahore and all, and we are familiar with these places or this whole ethos or the culture which we come from. So your immediate connection is there, but you are also connecting with the Western writing because you've studied it and you've read it, and you're speaking in English. We are talking in English just now, not in any other language, right? So yeah, so and it is actually the binding factor if you look at it, because people from all over India can talk to each other in English, though their own mother tongue may be totally different, which would reduce your communication to that particular region, So yeah, so coming back to this, like I am trying now to read more of whatever the regional stuff is. Doesn't matter whether it's from Delhi or whether it's from Chennai or anywhere else, as it's translated works. But I'm saying that despite that, I think the human emotion, like story is a story, whichever language you read it in. So as long as you're making a connection, whether it's through Flash or whether through a novel, whichever way you're telling that story, you're telling your story, or you want to tell a story, and therefore you're writing. Otherwise you wouldn't be writing. Simple as that. And you want to make a connect, like you want to make a connect with other people. And because we also make connections through the books, we make our connections through whatever we are reading, and we try to understand the world through what we are reading. I mean, I do that, and I'm sure everybody else. I mean, without literature or language, where would we be actually? Where would we be without being able to share our experiences and thoughts and whatever else, whether it's in Flash form or any other form, or even parts of our culture, or understanding another person's culture.
Yes, that's also a very valid point, Abha. And I want to, you said something that I think makes for a very interesting segue into something else I want to ask. And I'm going to ask it, but I also want Jose to reflect on the first question, because I think it's an important one to reflect on. And I also want to then add that second point, because you just said that Flash and language is language is a very important way to reflect on how to relate to other people. And I think that there's something interesting about the way that Flash, as a form, that Indian literature from the get-go, from the great epics, has always been so big, it's always been trying to do such big things, and Flash is so small. And I even wonder if that also has to do with the publishing equation as well. It's like coming from such a tradition of like big bloated stories, and then trying to then tell things in a page might not immediately relate to people who are more traditionally minded. So is there like a space you think where this kind of more like mythic, or this kind of like very Puranic type of tradition can also be a part of the Flash tradition? If so, tell me more. And Jose, please try to answer both those questions with a relative brevity somehow.
Yeah, I happen to read as much as possible in Malayalam, but it's when compared to what I read in English, it's but I'm in touch with most of the writers, the young writers who are trying to publish their works, because I happen to translate a little bit. And most of the story fiction writers also happen to write some poetry at some stage in their life. So I have translated a lot of them. And there is a space for flash fiction in Malayalam literary. There are no literary magazines as such, but even the political magazines, Kiran, you might know, there are close to 10 mainstream magazines in Malayalam, which has a space for at least 2 or 3 stories every week. So that's a great space actually, and that's all sorts of stories come there, depending on what they are willing to pay. So if there is a standard payment, they need the story, stories that are as long as it could be, like 5 or 6 pages or 7 pages in the magazine. And some magazines have limited space, so there are some stories which have to be contained in 1 page. So they don't call it flash fiction, but if you count the words, it would come under that category. Yeah, what was the second question?
Well, I'm now going to just, because even though I was not asked the question, I feel like answering anyways. Tejasvi in Kannada, I think, would be another, Purnachandra Tejasvi would be an interesting Kannada writer who also writes stories, and I think he doesn't purposely write flash fiction, but I think I'll write his full name as well. I don't even know if he's translated, but he's also maybe someone to research later for that perspective of mother tongue writing. The second question was, how do we rectify this kind of epic, mythical kind of Indian style of literature that is so prominent, even to the bestsellers, even to the Chetan Bhagats of Indian quote-unquote literature. How do we rectify that style of tradition with now this kind of brief, very to the point flash fiction space? If you're interested in asking
anybody else would like to start?
Well, maybe this is where we get into the whole globalization and literature thing, right? Maybe some of us are not interested in being part of that narrative. Is that perhaps it? Is that you feel like flash fiction is a way to be a part of another narrative or another literary tradition?
If you are talking about regional literature, it's still there. The reworkings of the myths and Puranas and all those things are still there in Malayalam, as far as I know. And some of them do it very well. And in English, I haven't come across anything like that, because there's no scope for a reworking of anything, but it's possible. You can take the myths, you can take a Greek myth and you can do a reworking of it in modern times if you want. Or a Hindu myth, you can try that, but I haven't come across anything that has come as a submission to what I judge these days. So I would say, why not? I haven't personally tried that.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Any of you two. Yes.
Well, I can say that I have made, I have, you can make references. I have actually 2 things. One is in Western stories, condensed to flash. I did do a contemporary version of Rumpelstiltskin, which is one of the Grimm's fairy tales. And in one of my flash bites, I make references. One of these flash bites, one of the stories is I've made a reference to a guy, an old man saying that I'm not going to die like Bhishma. I'm not going to die like here, there, everywhere. I'm going to be like Bhishma of Mahabharata. And I want, Krishna there, and I want Yudhishthira there. And, so that reference is very much there. So it's anyone who has read, it's a reference to the Indian culture. I'll just this is, I am like Bhishma of Mahabharata. I will be allowed to die where and how I wish. The gods granted this to Bhishma. He had Yudhishthira in front of him and Krishna on the right of him when he died. And this was as he wished. This is from my story, Dying Where I Want, and it's a piece of flash. And the story is, carries on from that bit. So the references, it begins with reference to the Mahabharata. So yeah, and I think we can bring the older stories any which way we want into flash.
Right.
It's your desire, or how much you want to refer to it, or you want to change it, make it contemporary. Even in my short stories, I've done a version of an aspect of Shurpanakha in one of my short stories, like a contemporary Shurpanakha. and it's got a plastic surgeon and all kinds of things in it. So it's very contemporary. So it just depends, how much you want to include it or not include it. But yes, the language, coming to what Kiran said, the language, of course, has to be very contemporary and very, we can't use, like, as a footnote of your Kalidasa thing, that poetry is so beautiful. I just keep, looking at it and saying, my God, this is so beautiful. But you can't write, I don't think I would be able to write Flash in that form. I could try maybe, but so the language is so different. That language translated in English is poetry and so beautiful, but it's not Flash, if you understand what I'm saying.
It's another.
If anybody, yeah,
It's
yeah.
Yes.
Another time, and that is also there. Another time, as you're saying.
Gaurav, do you have anything to weigh on in regards to this question?
If I understood the question correctly, there's an assumption that Hindu mythology, or not necessarily Hindu mythology, because it plays a role in our narrative telling, in our retelling of some of these old myths. Was that the question?
More about the fact that, okay, if we look at the histories of Indian literatures and the way that Indian literature has formed over the last 5,000 years, this form, this way of writing is the way that it collapses, or the way that it could collapse to Indian literature is, I guess what I'm interested in is like how, given the way that, again, we'll have to do a lot of like random languages and a lot of segments of different books, but I mean, the way that, these classical writers were writing, and then the way that people in the medieval period were writing, and then there's so many different, again, we'd have to go into so much literary history, but my point is then, when we then talk about Flash, which has such a different flavor, feeling, and so it almost is incongruent with that narrative, how do you rectify that as people who, or do you rectify it? Do you just say, no, I don't necessarily need to be a part of this tradition, and I'm going to do my own thing? Or are you trying to rectify it in another way?
Well, I don't think I've inherited this Indian heritage at all. And that's, because we were colonized. So, I mean, I don't know how many of us, I think in Jose's case, he's very active he's very active as a Malayalam reader. And yes, some Indian writers, I mean, like Kamala Das and all, I mean, I've read in translation again, but I guess that's why it doesn't organically play a role at all in my writing, is because it never was there in the first place. I mean, it hasn't shaped my imagination. I think I've read more Shelley and Blake in school than I read any other Indian writer, or even, I mean, because also I think, at least in my specific case, I went to a British school. I read Victorian poets, and I guess that must be the case for a lot of Indians who studied in English medium schools, that your early exposure to literature was essentially like British literature to begin with. I mean, reading Hardy or reading Dickens or reading, and so I don't know. So there's nothing to rectify, because I actually have disinherited it. As a writer, I don't think those narrative tropes play any influential role on me as a writer. So, yeah.
Okay, so I can ask Gautam a question, like Gaurav a question, and that is, okay, would you be writing or bringing in someone like Thomas Hardy, Wuthering Heights, into your kind of Flash writing?
I think in my very, very specific case, because I was in love with German literature at a very young age. So I learned German to read Kafka, and I've translated some work. So yes, I think my influences, definitely Kafka is in my writing. Definitely Daniel Harms is in my writing, although I don't know Russian. Robert Walser, in the new book which is coming out in February, it's all influenced by, and I don't know, a lot of German writers. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's definitely much more. I mean, Punjabi, I've written this book about Punjab, but I think I've written it more influenced by Danilo Kish, who's a Serbian writer, than any, so I guess you're constantly being influenced by writers from other traditions, other literary traditions. For me, the Jewish literary traditions has played a huge role. Like reading a lot of literature written by European Jewish writers, Yiddish writers. I've learned some Yiddish. So yeah, and honestly, Abhay, I mean, it's not something to be proud of. I mean, it's not like Yudhishthira ke bare mein, sorry, I don't know that much, you know. And maybe because maybe I grew up in a family that didn't really educate me. It's not, I mean, what I received in school, and then also, you know, what you get at home.
Yes.
I don't know if
Yes,
it happened.
both the things matter. Yeah. And I agree there, because I also came to all these epics much later in life. I made an effort to read them because I come from an Arya Samaji background. And so they never ever introduced any of this, our epics to me. And I think it's been such a loss actually, because I would have loved to be grounded in that. So I've been trying to read, and I find Mahabharata immensely intriguing. Immensely intriguing, because it's so gray. It's so gray. And you know, so I just find it like, why didn't I do, you know, why was I just ignoring this text, this whole epic, and concentrating on like Thomas Hardy or Charles Dickens or whatever, you know?
But you know, people used to say that, yeah. I mean, when the British were here, there were a lot of people like Urdu writers who would say, yeah, what ye kya hai? Like, what is this? Like, they weren't particularly impressed. You know, someone's writing about a house, so they, you know, I mean, it's interesting how we were schooled in Victorian poetry, and then, but like, you know, just I think a lot of Hindi-speaking households, they grow up with Kabir ke Dohe, you know, and that's something which something which is even on the vernacular level, you know, I don't even think I got enough of that, you know. I know a lot of people who did, you know, and.
It's a loss. It's a loss. I think, I mean, that's my thinking, but I feel it's a loss.
It's a loss. It is fascinating. No, it's a fascinating loss. Also, I can relate to this as an Indian American, and it's also interesting that as an Indian American, I can also relate to the fact that I was given a Chitra Katha to read these kind of stories, and I was also given a certain type of education that would make me want to read them more than maybe someone who was raised in India, you know, because that was something that I would have to discover more about myself, you know, as in the third person. So it's interesting as well, the spaces of like, you know, this narrative loss that would happen to even diaspora, but also happening to people in India in a certain way.
Yeah.
So
can I say one thing, which is something which answers Abha's thing? You know, okay, I'm not being completely honest. So maybe not like Mahabharata and all, but definitely Sardar ke joke hain isme. Like in my writing, no, mazak nahi kar raha hu. The absurdist writing, a lot of my absurdist writing comes from Sardar jokes. Because, I mean, that's one cultural thing which I received, because being a Punjabi and growing up listening to like my nani and my dadi, not so much my dadi, but my nani was great at narrating evening long, you know, like, so this is a veritable oral narrative tradition, you know, jokes, at least in Punjabis. I mean, we don't take anything pretty, you know, that seriously. So this is very interesting. There's a little piece in the Ruins called The Old Woman, which is actually a reworking of several Punjab Sardar jokes. But this was interesting. When there's a loss, Kiran, which is what you're talking about, when there's a loss, there's often a different kind of gain, which is very interesting, you know, because some of these stories were literally just Sardar jokes, but as soon as they were written in English, they lost their humor, because they lost, well, not completely, they lost a certain degree of cultural specificity, which sort of retranslated itself as this sort of weird, dark, black humor. Like there's this word in English, you know, in Punjabi or Hindi, we say "ami," you know. Now that I've tried to bring this idea of "ami," why did you do something just "ami kitta," like you did it for no real reason. And then when I tried to translate that sense in a story, it came out as darkly absurd, you know, which was not necessarily bad. It lost some of its cultural specificity. So, you know, there's a lovely book, by the way, and I'm going to shut up after this, but Beyond the Mother Tongue, written by a Turkish woman. And there's one entire essay on Kafka, because Kafka was also a Czech Jew who wrote in German because of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but German was not. I mean, in a way, it was like, you know, on-site migration. It was like what Indians have received as, you know, working in this English language, but then it's not the same English as a Britisher, you know, it's a different English. And it's, you know, maybe ostensibly on one level the same, but it's inflected with so much of what we bring to it with the other languages, sort of these hidden languages. So there's a hidden Punjabi somewhere in my English, is what I was trying to say.
Oh, true that. I mean, I'm sure Jose would agree that there's a hidden Malayali somewhere, and I would say, yeah, there's definitely a hidden, Hindi-speaking woman somewhere, or belonging to Delhi somewhere, So yeah, as you say, the hidden, and like when you talk, this whole concept, like my husband was actually born in Lahore, and I was telling him, I read this book and where this reference is made to that this Shoshagiri which goes on, which is very Lahori and which has been brought to Delhi. This whole, I don't know, in your book, My Father, the Watchmaker, you talk about the Delhi people having this certain sense of, ostentatiousness, which is so, which refers to Lahore. It's been brought to Delhi from Lahore. And I was mentioning this to him. I said, yeah, I mean, and he agreed because he's been to Lahore also. And he was saying, yeah, it's true what you're talking about. And I said, well, so now you know where this comes from.
मैं Switzerland में था, ठीक है? And I was in Switzerland and I was hanging out with a Lahori girl. And she said, yeah, tu bada Lahori hai. I said, yeah, Lahore ki shakal nahi rekhi. So obviously the family comes, right? Like we are these tacit inheritances, and it's so interesting because what is so Lahori about me? I've never seen, what this is a Delhi thing, yeah, not a Lahori thing. This is a Delhi thing, and then you're like, what? It may have some origins in another country now, So
yeah. So your antecedents never leave you.
I don't mean to interrupt, even though it's a fun conversation and I've been enjoying it. We're still getting we will have to, because Karan wants to make sure that we keep it in a certain time range. I'm going to start pausing the recording, but we can keep talking and everyone here can stay and we can just talk until we're tired of each other. But just for the sake of the Zoom recording, I have to keep it in a certain time limit. So I'm going to pause. Thank you so much for this part of the speaking, which I think was really insightful and interesting. And there's a lot of insight into not only Flash, but also a lot of your personal lives and thinking, which I think is also part of it. So thank you for that.